Ping Er rolled with Sister Feng to grab some food, helped her freshen up, and then dipped to Tanchun's spot. When Ping Er got there, it was all quiet in the courtyard, just some maids, mothers-in-law, and other folks waiting outside the window. Inside, it was the council chamber where the three misses were chopping it up about some household stuff. Who was there? Li Wan, Tanchun, and Baochai. When Tanchun saw Ping Er, she told her to pull up a stool since she was just there to listen and not really participate. They were talking about getting together to visit Lai Da's place as he's invited them over for a drink. Who's Lai Da, you ask? Well, he's been a servant in the Jia Palace for generations. In Dream of the Red Chamber, you can see how in old-school Chinese society, this kind of thing was going down. In those big families, there were folks who served for ages and developed tight bonds. When they were set free with some cash to do their own thing, it turned into a kind of family connect between Lai Da's crew and the Jia family. The relationship further cemented when the two Lai children went to school and got into the civil service. They even used to invite some of the Jia family, like Grandmother Jia and Lady Wang, over for some drinks. When Tanchun hit up Lai Da's spot for a New Year's drink, she noticed that, even though his garden wasn't as big as the De Guan garden, it was still looking fresh with a bunch of flowers and plants. She asked about it and Lai Da's daughter told her they had hired some folks to take good care of the garden and sell the goods, with some of the profits going back to the family and some given to the government. That really stuck with Tanchun. Now that she's in charge, she wants to do things her way. So, let's hold off on discussing this matter for now. We can talk about the reform later. First, let's talk about something else. The other day, someone came back and asked for the monthly allowance of hair ointment and face powder, 2 taels per person. How much money did each girl receive monthly originally? 2 taels of silver. That's their salary, but now, on top of that, they are also asked for an additional 2 taels of silver. What's up with that? It's supposedly for buying face powder and hair oil. It might not seem like a big deal, but it's a shady practice. So Tanchun brought this up for discussion. Weren't the original 2 taels per month meant for buying these things? Ping Er explained, there's a reason for it. The steward buys these items every month and has the women of each room hand it over to us for safekeeping, but the items they purchase are no good. So, what's the solution? Give the girls an additional 2 taels of silver, so they can find someone to go out and buy them, and only then can they use what's purchased. Both Tanchun and Li Wan laughed and remarked, you've also noticed it. There's no way around it, we're not brave enough to confront it. Just stalling for some time, and then who knows from where they come up with something, but it's all just a show, not actually usable. We still have to use this 2 taels of silver to buy new stuff. Why do the stewards do this? Because they have a cozy relationship with vendors and profit from it, right? If someone goes out to buy genuine and legitimate things, then the steward in charge won't take it well and might accuse them of trying to take his position, so they can only do this. The person going out to buy would rather offend the insiders, even offend the girls, than offend the steward. Tanchun said, that's why I'm not comfortable with it, we're spending twice the amount of money and wasting half of the stuff. When you calculate it, we're actually wasting double the amount, so it's better to just cancel the monthly allowance for the stewards. This was a relatively small matter. More importantly, she then spoke to Ping Er, during the New Year, we went to the Lai family's place, and you were there too. Did you see their garden? How does it compare to ours? Ping Er laughed and replied, it's not even half the size of ours, and there are far fewer trees and flowers. Tanchun said, I was chatting with their daughter, and who would have thought that in such a garden, apart from the flowers they bring and the bamboo shoots, vegetables, fish, and shrimp they consume, it is also leased out annually, and by the end of the year, there is a surplus of 200 taels of silver. Since that day, I came to realize that even a broken lotus leaf or a withered grass root has value. At this point, Baochai burst into laughter and said, "This is truly a conversation of the privileged and pampered. Even though you are a young lady of wealth, you wouldn't know about this. You are all from affluent families, the daughters of the wealthy and prosperous, you might not understand these things. But all of you have had education and can read. Haven't you read Zhu Xi's essay, Waste Not? Zhu Xi is a Confucian, isn't he? And indeed he wrote an article entitled Waste Not. The main idea of the article is that everything in the world has its own value and should not be wasted casually. Every object in the world has its purpose and utility." Tanchun was like, "Sure, I've read his stuff, but it's just fancy words to motivate people. Where's the real substance in it?" This pretty much sums up Tanchun's take on Zhu Xi's writing. Tanchun's comeback, "It's all just empty words," can be put in today's language as, "It's all just ideology." This reveals Tanchun's view on Confucianism. She thinks that the ideas expressed in Zhu Xi's writing are just empty talk with no real-world basis, basically just representing ideology. When Baochai heard this, she was quick to argue, "All the philosophers talk in fancy words, but each sentence carries weight. You've only been dealing with current affairs for a couple of days, and now your mind is clouded by personal gain. You're making Zhu Xi seem empty and unreal. When you get to see more important matters, you'll start seeing Confucius as a mirage too." Baochai disagreed, firmly believing that Confucian teachings are not just shallow ideology. Tanchun chuckled and said, "You, being all educated and stuff, never heard of GZ? It says in the book GZ, it's totally made up. Chao Shuoqin made it up and called it GZ, and claims to have these words in it, those big shots making decisions, the ones calling the shots, the ones actually getting things done, might talk the talk of Yao and Shun, but in reality, they'll go against the teachings of Confucius and Mencius." That's how Tanchun sees it. She thinks we can't just follow the teachings of Confucianism when it comes to getting things done. It's all just for show. In reality, our actions will definitely go against what Confucius and Mencius taught. Baochai was like, "Hey, isn't there another line below that?" Tanchun just laughed and said, "Come on, now you're just cherry-picking quotes. If I were to recite the next line, would I be scolding myself?" Then Baochai went on, "You know, there's nothing in this world that can't be put to use. If it's usable, it's valuable. It's a shame that you're a smart cookie, but you haven't been through these big affairs. It's a bummer that it's too late now." That was a pretty strong statement. It's like she's saying, "Look, you've never really dealt with important stuff before. Now that you get it and want to do something about it, it's just too late." What's that supposed to mean? Baochai has already figured something out. Even if you wanted to shake things up with some reforms, it's already too late. This statement really packs a punch, and it's gonna be proven later on. So someone nearby started getting impatient. Guess who? It was Liwan. She said, "You called someone here and you're not talking about important stuff, instead you're just getting into intellectual discussions." Then Baochai chimed in, "Hey, intellectual pursuits are important things. When you bring in some brainpower to deal with small stuff, it gets elevated. If you don't bring in the brainpower, then it's just mundane." I think this is the kickoff of the current political powwow, and it's a big deal. What stage, you ask? It's all about the whole, which way are we headed, question, the issue of ideological orientation. What's the first thing you need for any overhaul? Gotta hash out the whole ideological orientation thing. But Liwan seems to be missing the point here. She's like, "Why aren't we talking about the real deal and instead yapping about intellectual stuff?" And Baochai sets her straight, intellectual pursuits, my friend, are the real deal. No matter how big or small the issue, you gotta bring in some brainpower to lift it up. Without that, it's just stuck at the mundane level. The first phase of China's reform and opening up was all about figuring out where the country was headed in terms of ideology. Then, in 1978, things took a big turn. The Guangming Daily started a conversation about what exactly truth is. This article caused a huge stir, leading to a big debate on how we should look at Mao Zedong's later ideas and the whole concept of keeping the revolution going under proletarian rule. If we don't reject Mao's later ideas, how can we even start on any kind of reform, right? And that's how the debate on ideology got going. Then Deng Xiaoping came in and threw his full support behind this debate, saying that the only way to really test truth is through trial and error. So, it's like this. The first stage is all about the ideology. What kind of ideological debate? It's like choosing between two paths, Confucianism or legalism. Baochai knew that Tanchun was all about legalism, but she reminded Tanchun that while you can go ahead with legalism's reform measures, don't forget the principles of Confucianism. Tanchun just doesn't get it. She can't accept anything from Confucianism, can she? She thinks it's all just empty talk. It's just an ideology. If we really want to get things done, we can only follow the path of legalism. The crux of this debate is right here, and it's called the first stage of the politburo meeting. We'll see later on just how important this stage of debate really is. The whole politburo meeting has about 4 stages. When we get to the 4th stage, we'll look back and see just how crucial the first stage was. Alright, so after they finished talking about their big ideas, they moved on to the next step, which is figuring out how they're gonna make some changes. The 3 of them messed around and joked for a bit before they got serious. So, here's what's up. Tanchun said, our family's garden is twice as big as theirs. At that rate we could make about 400 taels of silver every year if we manage it well. But that feels kinda small and not really like something our family should be doing. Instead, we could pick a few honest and capable older women from the garden and have them take care of it, without asking them for rent or taxes, just asking them for a little something each year. This idea is called contracting. So, what's in it for us? Well, first off, the garden would have people who really cared for it, and the flowers and plants would grow nicely each year without us having to rush around. Second, we wouldn't waste any resources. Another good thing is that the older women could also make a little extra money and feel appreciated for all their hard work. And lastly, we would save money on hiring gardeners and cleaners. The Jia family's Daguan garden is really huge, and every year they have to hire people from outside to help out, like gardeners and cleaners. By doing what Tanchun is suggesting, we could save some cash. So all in all, these are the 4 good things about the changes we're thinking of making. The other 2 guys were on board, and Baochai listened in, nodded, and said, yeah, good call. With this plan, we won't starve for the next 3 years. Li Wan chimed in too, great idea. The boss will love it. It's not just about saving money, but first, we need someone to handle the cleaning job, specialize in their tasks, and let them sell the goods. Coerce with power, induce with profit. Then we won't have anyone slacking off. Li Wan pretty much summed up the legalist principles in 8 words. Think about it, the management science we're learning today seems like a pretty complicated subject, right? But in the end, it all comes down to 8 words. First, what do we need to establish? A system of positional power. In this company, we've got to define the authority of each position, coerce with power. And what's the second part? Set up incentive structures, induce with profit. That's basically all there is to management science, right? Actually, this is just what the legalists believed in. They didn't buy into the idea of ruling the country with virtue. They believed in an incentive mechanism. Make the rewards and punishments clear, and that's what motivates people. Everyone's had their say, even Ping Er, and she's just sitting in on the meeting. This is something the young ladies should speak up about. Even though our grandmother has this in mind, she might not be able to express it well. Right now, the young ladies are living in the garden and can't bring in more toys to keep them company. Instead, they're asking people to supervise and fix things to save money. It's not a good thing to say. Right after she said this, Baochai came over, reached out to touch Ping Er's face, and said with a smile, "Open your mouth, let me see your teeth and tongue. From early morning till now, you've been saying the same things, not trying to flatter third sister, nor saying anything bad about your mistress. You have just been reacting to third sister. Whatever third sister thinks of, you think of too. Your mistress has also thought of it, but there must be a reason why it can't be done. Now, because the young ladies are living in the garden, it's not good to let people supervise for the sake of saving money. Think about it, if it's really handed over to someone to manage the money, that person naturally won't allow a single flower to be picked or a single fruit to be touched. The young ladies will naturally not dare to be particular, and they will argue with the little girls every day. The little girls are the maids. With your even-handed considerations, neither servile nor overbearing, your mistress may not at first be happy with us, but after hearing your words, she will come around and become more friendly, right?" Baochai revealed Ping Er's capability. "So, open your mouth and let me take a look. What are you made of?" Tanchun was like, "I was so angry when I got up early. When I heard that Ping Er was here, it immediately reminded me of her mistress. She used to be such a wild one in charge of everything. Just seeing her made me angry, you know. She's just so straightforward." As soon as Tanchun caught sight of Sister Feng, she would get all worked up. Who knew Ping Er was here? She stood around like a scared little mouse for ages. It was so pitiful. And then she said this three. Instead of just saying her mistress treated me well, she brought up how she didn't forget the kindness the girls showed to my mistress. That one sentence didn't just make me lose my anger, it made me feel guilty and hurt me, you know. I thought about my situation as a young girl, causing trouble and no one caring, no one paying attention. What's the point in being good to others? Tanchun couldn't help but start crying as she talked about it. We can see that Baochai is spot on about Ping Er. Not too cocky, not too meek, always mindful of the situation. She doesn't just agree with everything third sister says, but whatever third sister dishes out, Ping Er has her own spin on it. That's Ping Er for you. So, that's where we're at. It's the second stage of the Politburo meeting, where reform measures were brought up. There are 3 people in this team, right? Tanchun was the first to bring it up, Baochai agreed, and Li Wan was on board too. So, that wraps up the second stage of the issue, and there are still 2 more stages to go.